Go. Good morning, everyone. This is one of my favourite books I like to read to my little boy, and it's called The Lumberjacks Beard by Duncan Beattie, and I really love the illustrations in it. Big Jim Hickory was a lumberjack. He lived by a forest in a little log cabin. He had big burly shoulders and an even bigger bristly beard. Every day he got up and did his limbering up exercises. It's very important to limber up if you're a lumberjack. After a hearty breakfast of pancakes and maple syrup, Jim slung his big trusty axe over his big burly shoulder and headed out into the forest. Chop, choppity chop went Jim's axe, timber, echoing through the valley as he felled tree after tree after tree. Look at all those trees he's felled down. After a long day of swinging, whacking, cleaving and hacking, Jim headed back to his cabin. That evening, when he was just about to go to bed, he heard a peck-peckety-peck on his door. Jim looked down to see a small and very cross bird. "I built a lovely new nest in my tree," shrieked the bird, "and you chopped it down." Jim scratched his big bristly chin. Then he had an idea. "I suppose you can move into my beard," he said. "Very well then," said the bird, and in she flew. The next morning, Jim woke up earlier than normal due to the bird chirping away at the break of dawn. He did his limbering up exercises, got dressed and ate his breakfast, with a little help from the new tenant in his beard. Jim's next job was to strip all the branches and leaves from the tree trunks and burn them into a big bonfire. After a long day of chopping, snapping, burning and crackling, Jim trudged back to his cabin for a well-earned rest. No sooner had he laid down his axe than he heard a noise at the door. Scratch, scratchety, scratch. He looked down to see a fed-up-looking porcupine. "Oi!" snapped the porcupine. "I needed those leaves and pine needles to make a nice cosy shelter. Where am I going to live now?" Jim thought and scratched his big bristly chin. "Well," he said, "I suppose you could move into my beard too." He bent down and the porcupine crawled in. The next morning, Jim woke even earlier and attempted to do his limbering up exercises. He looked in the mirror and scratched his big bristly chin and yow! He got porcupine quills in his fingers. Look, it must have been so painful. He tried to eat his breakfast, but lost his appetite when he noticed bird poo on his shirt. Jim's job that day was to float all the tree trunks down the river to the lumber yard. One by one, he rolled the logs into the fast-flowing water, and after a hard day of lugging, splashing, rolling and crashing, he staggered back to his cabin. Thwomp, thwompity thwomp went his door. He looked down to see a very angry beaver on his doorstep. "I spent all day building my nice new dam, and it got smashed to bits by those logs you threw in the river," he snarled. Without a word, Jim picked up the beaver and put him in his beard. Between the birds chirping, the porcupines prickling, and the beavers thwomping, Jim didn't get much sleep that night. He was too tired to do his limbering up exercises in the morning, and the beavers thwomping had knocked his pancakes all over the floor. "That's it," cried Jim. "I can't take it anymore. You all have to move out today." "But where will we live?" gasped his friends. As Jim scratched his big bristly chin, he had a bold but brilliant idea. He went into his bathroom, took his trusty razor and began to shave off his big bristly beard. Then he piled it up on his porch, and the bird, the porcupine and the beaver all moved into their cosy new den. That night, Jim slept better than he had done for some time. He woke up and did some particularly vigorous limbering up exercises and put on a fresh plaid shirt. Then he made an enormous tower of pancakes and maple syrup. After breakfast, Jim looked out the window at the bare ground, where the forest used to be, and scratched his unusually bare, stubbly chin. And he had another brilliant idea. That morning, Jim took his trusty shovel and dug hole after hole after hole. And with his big hands, he planted tree after tree after tree. Jim's beard grew back over time. The trees took quite a bit longer, though. But it was worth it in the end. The end. Thank you for listening. Hope you're all safe and well. Bye.